Dr. Judy WTF. And today, wherever your time zone is, I have no idea, we have with us Dr. Barbara Pavlo, a very dear friend of mine. We go back a long, long, long way, and we've had tremendous life experience together, including studying for our psychologist license. So here we are, and we are going to be talking about dating after 65. So if you want to take a guess as to how old we are, I'll let you guess, okay? And this is a call-in show, everyone, so please feel free to call in and ask questions. You've got two doctors' brains to pick away at tonight, so please do so. And Dr. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great being here, and I'm really looking forward to this topic because it comes up so often.
It really, really does. And I know that there are a lot of people. We just picked the age 65 because it represents senior citizens. So really, that's what it's all about is what do you do when you're a senior person and everything's changed. Your body has changed, your finances are different, your life circumstances are different. Maybe you have children, maybe you don't, maybe you have grandchildren, maybe you have dogs, maybe you have an active lifestyle, maybe you have health issues. So there's so many variables that come up in the dating world, not to mention my favorite topic, narcissism, where people are just for whatever reason getting more and more emotionally selfish and unavailable and sucking the life force out of people around them instead of playing what I call the better game of life, my favorite word, synergy. And that's one of the reasons Barbara and I have been good friends is because we have different lives, but yet we have synergy, and that's what makes it fun and interesting. So let's start by, Barbara, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Okay. So when we're dating a human being, hopefully, right? Yes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. So let's talk about what is synergistic between you and I that has kept a 30 plus year friendship together and why it is that we still have light between us. And it's going to apply to a male female relationship or really any romantic relationship. So maybe we could start there. So, what is it about us as a friendship that creates light?
Well, I think that's a great question that we both can answer.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a good question, we'll both have a different view on
Yeah.
where the light is coming from. I mean, one important aspect that comes to mind immediately is a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And not everybody has a sense of humor. So if you don't have a sense of humor, you don't want someone with a sense of humor because it would be annoying. But I think between both of us, we do have a good sense of humor. We get each other's humor
Yeah.
and laughter. So
Yeah.
however you define laughter, just because you're older or a quote unquote senior citizen doesn't mean you have to lay down and die. It means you still have to have some fun. And fun is defined differently for everybody. It's a subjective term. So what you may consider fun, if the person you're looking to date doesn't consider fun, it's probably not going to last because the big difference, and I'll go back to our friendship in a moment, but I think one of the big differences between dating when you're older and dating when you're younger is the chemistry aspect. When you're younger, it's all about how the person looks and you're imagining what you could do with those looks, and it's very sexual. And as you get older, because of illness or because of genetics, sometimes your genetics, your genitalia doesn't work the way that it did. And what some people look at is intimacy is holding hands. They're not looking at it in the same way. So I think having fun, going back to our friendship, really keeps a relationship alive.
Yeah.
You could have fun sitting on the couch together, watching television or laughing at how you can't bend down to pick up, something from the floor because your balance is off, or, whatever it is. If you could have fun doing the simple things, then the rest is really gravy.
I think that's a really good point. Well, one of the things, of course, if you're dating somebody new, is you don't have what is very important between Barbara and I, for me, is that we have history. So we don't have to explain things. I can say to her, Barbara, you remember when we were studying for the exam and we were eating lox and bagels and all kinds of bakery stuff, and now we can't eat any of that crap?
Wait, where are the lox and bagels? I thought, being on the show, you'd have a whole platter for me.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
is it?
You're okay. It's coming up. It's coming up. The lox and the bagels have turned into broccoli and steamed fish. How about yeah. So one thing that people don't have, obviously, in a new situation is shared history. However, I'm going to substitute that for shared values. Because if you have shared values, it's as though you have shared history, because you might have similar religious values. So you might have similar religious history or political history or philosophical history, or you might have shared values in terms of art or music or anything. So remember, what is the light? And I'll go to panel 7 in a minute so that you can have a metaphor of what I'm talking about, is that when 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. So if I'm better off not being with somebody, I won't be with them. If I'm better off being with them, then I'll be with them. And of course, we are very mercurial. I mean, Barbara and I have been through phases where I'll turn to her and say, Barbara, do you not love me? You haven't returned my calls in days, or you seem very distant, or whatever. So I think one of the aspects that's really important is that we can communicate about it. And then she can laugh and say, are you crazy? You know, I've not been feeling well. You know that I've shut down. I go, okay, I know. Okay.
And that's a profound understanding that you definitely get with history, but also this runs the risk of staying with someone only because you have history. And, that's a whole nother topic. That could be a whole nother show. Why do you stay with somebody? And many people say, well, we've been together so long, we have children together, and blah, blah. And that is not okay either. History is an important part, as you said, where you understand each other and you're able to communicate without going into all this detail and really being understood and kind of forgiven, because you get the person. But you also have to measure, are you just with that person for history? Because history is to be made every single day.
Right. And as most of my listeners know, we repeat bad history. We do what I call the what the Freud. And sometimes we pair up with friends and lovers and husbands and wives and bosses and whoever that hurt us in the same way that we've been hurt as children. So if we've been abandoned, if we've been demeaned, devalued, and destroyed, it's often the case that we'll pick even a friend that will abandon or hurt us or demean, devalue, and destroy. And if you don't have the communication, and if you don't both want to take risks in the friendship and confront that which is not working, then that which is not working will erode the friendship, and then there will be no light left in the friendship.
100%. And that goes right to what we're talking about. Just because you're 65, 60, 55, whatever the age is, it doesn't mean you don't communicate anymore what your wants are. I think part of dating, especially when you're older, is being clear in what you want and being very clear in what's not acceptable. Because when we're younger, again, chemistry fools us. You're attracted to somebody. So what? They didn't call me back. Doesn't matter. They're a great kisser. Oh my God, I feel so good being with them. You get sidetracked. But when you're older, if that's not there, you really need to know what you're looking for and what your deal breakers are. If you were married to an alcoholic for 25 years and somebody you go out with seems to have a drinking problem, okay, it's something to explore. And if they do indeed have a drinking problem, are you going to put up with that again?
Exactly. So I think one of the advantages, I want to talk about the advantages of dating after 65, and then we'll get into the complications and so on. So for me, I know myself a lot better than I did several years ago. I also happen to be, like Barbara, a psychologist, so I understand patterns, I understand personality disorders, I understand how to own my own stuff. I understand where my shortcomings are. I understand how to put myself together with a person that may not be a perfect fit and not let's say rub them the wrong way because it's not fair what I'm demanding of them. So I think that maturity is sexy. I really do. Accomplishments. So let's talk about everything that's sexy. You know, maybe the wrinkles are sexy too, because when you smile, remember the studies about wrinkles, and if you don't smile with your eyes, and you know, I know now people
Yeah.
are using Botox and this lift and that lift. If you're not smiling with your eyes, you're not touching the person's heart. So to me, what's sexy is the soul connection. There are many, many levels of connection. There's connection physically, there's connection intellectually, and then there's connection mind, body, soul, right? And if you don't have the soul part, then the rest of it is, I'm afraid, temporary, very temporary, because it is not going to work to sustain a relationship by your looks. It's not going to necessarily sustain if you're both intellectually compatible. If you don't have that special heart to heart connection, that means that if any one of those other superficial elements don't work, then it's time to leave the relationship. On the
And I
contrary,
think
if
you
it
bring
works
up
here, then a lot more is tolerable and a lot more is available for conversation.
an excellent point, and I think your viewers would like it to be identified. You said a heart-to-heart connection. Break it down. What does that mean?
Maybe it's an intuitive thing, and I feel like I do have it with you. I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
have a heart to heart
Mm-hmm.
connection, even if we do have disconnects. We
Mm-hmm.
still go back to, I liken it to this. There's very few people that light up my room. So if somebody walks in, it's like, hi, yeah, great. Okay, when
Mm-hmm.
Barbara walks in, it's like, Barbara. Okay, there's something that lights up. And I feel that way about my grandson, although right now he's heavy into his cell phone. It's not fun, you know. There are a few people that I feel that way about, but not everyone. And I think it maybe defies words. What is a heart to heart connection? A heart to heart connection to me is family, familiarity, comfort zone, safety. Okay. Where do I usually get this from? My dogs. You know, dog spelled backward is God and unconditional love. And I think we're all wanting that. Now, dating when you're older brings up challenges because all of that superficial stuff, the looks, the body, and all of that, you know, it's not going to hold up forever. And so, what if you meet somebody wonderful and they're not perfect? Their heart is not perfect, or their balance is not perfect, or their sugar level is not great, or they have cancer or fibromyalgia, or, you know, that's the way the body works. So they just had a tumor removed, or they just had some sort of a procedure that is challenging and scary and difficult. Now, a real soul friend or a real soul partner is somebody that's going to be in it for good with you. And the problem is, and I'll let you kind of take it from there, what happens when you're dating a new person? You don't have history with them, you don't have any history of thick and thin between them. So, are you going to take somebody on that's not too perfect? Depends. So, take it from there. What if,
Yeah, I think what we run into is people are intolerant. And I think as you get older, you don't have to put up with stuff. Like when you're in school, you're in high school, it's very important that your friends like you. It's very important that at the lunch table, people sit down next to you, that you're not by yourself. And your self-esteem comes from external factors. And
Yeah.
hopefully, as you grow and as you mature, it becomes more internal. So that sometimes actually going out to eat by yourself or treating yourself to whatever you want to do alone feels good. But if you told a teenager to do that, they'd be like, what are you, crazy? I can't do that by myself. What if someone sees me? So it's a different feeling. And that goes into the intolerance. So when you're younger, you put up with more baloney, crap, whatever word you want to use,
Right. Right.
from other people. But as you get older, the intolerance is there. And some people have had very bad histories. And if they see something that even smells like a trigger, they're out. They don't even communicate. Hey, Judy, I just noticed you did blank. My ex-wife did that. I'm a little triggered by that. And then you have an opportunity to talk about it. But if they're intolerant and it's like, oh, she's going to be just like my ex-wife, they're gone. Or, in another situation where somebody, was in an abusive relationship and the guy doesn't open the door for you and your husband did that. Sometimes we project onto other people qualities and liabilities that they don't possess. So I think dating when you're older, part of that is really talking and having a voice. When you're younger, it's not good. Most teenagers don't have a voice. Most people in their 20s don't have a voice. He didn't call me. I'm really upset. I don't know what's going on. Why don't you call him? Oh, no, I can't call him. Why not? Your ego. If you call him and say, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you. If he's going to reject you, he's going to reject you whether you call him or not. But you feel insecure about that. So I think a really big word of advice for anybody dating when they're older is to articulate and talk about your thoughts and feelings and not be intolerant. You could be intolerant if their response is what you anticipated and it's negative, then okay, but give it a chance. Be a little bit more open-minded and then make a decision.
I think that's a really excellent point. And what you were talking about, the reminders of old relationships, that is a fear response. And fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. So just because somebody doesn't open the door for you, well, I like it if a guy opens the door for me. And if they don't, I might say, would it be a big deal to you if you did? It would really make me feel very special. And if they said, it's a pain in the butt, I could say, well, could we do it on special occasions then? Maybe if we're going out on a hot date, you could do that. Everything's negotiable, right? And if they're not negotiable, if they're not flexible, then it's not a good sign. Um, so I think that communication is such a big deal. And also getting the ego out of the way, as you pointed out. You don't have to live in nebulous thoughts. Does he like me? Doesn't he like me? Is he interested? Why isn't he called? Find out. And then that'll close, the concept of um, open file, right? The Zygarnik effect, the effect that if somebody's not calling, they're going to be on your mind more. Close the file. If they're not for you, know that quickly. Don't waste time.
100%. And I love you talked about heart to heart a little bit earlier. And the heart to heart, it's kind of innate. You can't make it happen. It
Oh,
either is there or it's not there. And it's that comfort and safety. When you're older, unfortunately, people get sick. Are you picking someone who's going to be there for you? Are
yes.
they going to find out you need surgery and say, oh, boy, I'm out of here. She needs surgery. I'm not putting up with that. My ex-wife had blah, blah. Okay, I get it, but you need to know that. So the heart to heart is really someone who cherishes you, and the cherish is defined differently. It's a subjective term. Everybody defines feeling cherished and showing someone that you cherish them differently, and it has to align. And if
Yeah,
it doesn't align, it doesn't make sense and you don't feel it.
And you know, up to a point, because I myself am guilty of not picking somebody because of some physicality. As Barbara knows, I'm big on teeth. If somebody has ugly teeth,
But tell everyone that's why we're friends, because I
we're
have
friends.
good
Barbara has
teeth.
really great teeth.
Otherwise, she was going to throw me out as a
No,
friend.
no, but you know, it's interesting that I say teeth because teeth are a big deal. And if you have teeth that are rotting or teeth that are not flossed properly, it does affect your organs. It does cause internal infection. It can really wreak havoc on your body. So sometimes looking in a person's mouth, it's like a horse. Is my horse healthy? You know, open your open your mouth. And I know I'm sounding really superficial, but sometimes it's important to look for a person's health and the way they glow, the way they conduct themselves, the food choices they eat. I know I yell a lot at Barbara, don't eat that, don't, you know, because I love her. I don't want her to commit suicide over a donut, you know? So sometimes a good relationship is where you strike a deal because once you're friends on a depth level with a person or you're married to a person, their problems become your problems. And if that person is neglecting themselves, they're neglecting a piece of the we. And that's not cool. So you don't get to do the same things that you do individually when you're with another person because now you're more interconnected than ever. What do you think of that concept?
I absolutely agree with you. And that's where the term compromise comes in. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when you're by yourself, you could do whatever you want to do. But
Right.
when you're with somebody else, and that comes into respect.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you have to respect yourself first. And if you don't respect yourself, people are going to treat you as such. If
Yeah.
you put yourself down, if you're negative towards yourself, you're basically giving a person a roadmap of
Yeah.
how to treat you.
Yes.
And people need to understand that when something is said, whether it's said to put a person down or if it's coming from love. And again, unlike a teenager who is going to just be offended and not say anything, you could say, you just said blank. I'm taking it as an affront. Did you mean to be insulting? And clarify. You know, we speak we speak English to one another or whatever language you
Yeah.
speak in that language because you need clarification. We speak human kindness. We speak human language,
Yes.
whatever that may be. And if you
It,
don't clarify, you're left to your own devices, and more than likely, you're not going to be accurate.
you know, as Barbara, see a lot of people, and I'm thinking about certain people that I have had in treatment who are looking for a very two-dimensional thing. Oh no, she's got to be blonde, she's got to be short, she's got to be thin, she's got to have big boobs. She's or he, you know, he's got to be at least 6 feet tall. He's got to have a six pack. Okay, all of those are very nice, and you are entitled to want those things. However, um, if you get those things and you don't get that heart to heart connection, trust me, you're going to find something. It will atrophy. On the contrary, if you find somebody that's good enough, you know, like the concept of good enough mothering, right? Mothers are not perfect, fathers are not perfect. If you find somebody good enough, it grows because whether they're cute or sexy or handsome or pretty, that's where the soul comes in. You're looking at them multi-dimensionally and the beauty grows. It's sort of like asking yourself, do you think your grandma's cute? Well, of course she's no longer, but of course I thought she was very cute. Is she cute from a typical 2024 version of beautiful? Well, probably not. I wouldn't put her on the cover of Vogue or anything, but maybe I would, you know? Maybe I would because she was so natural and her skin was so nice and just physically she was clean and she didn't wear a lot of makeup and she looked authentic. So Authenticity. Let's talk about that. Dating at 65, you're more, hopefully more authentic with who you are. A lot of people are trying to fight time, a little plastic surgery, a little this, a little that. Okay, I get it, but when the distortions are too great, then what happens?
I think that when the distortions are too great, people are very unhappy.
Right? When they're looking at a
Yeah.
future partner and they see thick silicone lips, or they see imbalanced facelifts, or they see, I don't know, what else are people seeing nowadays? I forget.
Well, people are seeing a variety of things, and I think the people, you have to know who you are. Are you a person that's just interested in looks? Okay, if you're just interested in looks and you're 72, a 72-year-old male, and you have a lot of money, then you could basically buy whoever you want to be with. And if you have somebody with silicone lips, silicone boobs, silicone whatever, okay, then that's going to make you happy. Some people don't care about conversation. They don't care about heart to heart. They care about what the appearance is. I'm not a really good looking man, but boy, do I have a beautiful woman on my arm. Okay, that's important. And that suffices. So it's very subjective, but in order to be happy, you must identify who you are. And whatever it is, there's no right and wrong. If that's what you're going for and that's going to genuinely make you happy, good for you. You found your happiness.
Mhm.
If what you're looking for, and yourself, for example, you're a very deep person. You have deep feelings, you have deep emotions, and you want to connect on that deep level. You don't want to be superficial. You don't want to say, hey, it's really nice out today. Oh, yeah, it rained. Okay, we
You
did.
like long walks on the beach in your profile? I like long walks on the beach and a
Yes,
glass of wine, and I'm 4 and 20 friendly. I mean, if you are, no insult to you. And I'm glad people are more honest. I'm talking about dating profiles, which I think we
yes.
should get into a little bit. I just heard a YouTube about how many avoidant personalities there are on dating sites. Well, it kind of makes sense because you don't need to get all that involved. You get 3, 4 dates, you get a little bit of the um, dopamine out of the connection, and then it dies because it always does. And then instead of going deeper in, you get out. Nobody wants to go deeper in. If it's not satisfying by day three, or, they're out.
Mhm. And there are people that want to go deeper in, but then personal choice comes in. Is this a person that I want to go deeper in with? There are
Mhm.
many people that are codependent and they need a relationship. Some people want to meet somebody who needs a relationship because they too need a relationship. Other people don't need it, but they want it. And again, that makes a huge difference. Do you want a relationship? Do you know what you're bringing to the table? I mean, in dating, everyone's going to the party. What are you bringing? Are you bringing, plastic plates and another person's bringing a homemade casserole? There's a little bit of a difference.
Mhm.
So, first of all, know your self-worth, know who you are, and look for someone who could compliment you unless you don't want that, unless you feel, I don't really care at this stage. I just don't want to be alone. When I turn the lights out at night, I'm scared. I just want a person there. I don't really care if we talk, if we have sex, whatever. It's a person. And that works too.
Yeah, if you're that honest with yourself and you say, look, I just need somebody to dial 911 for me if I'm
Yeah.
crashing. Okay, then you've got very minimal needs, and you'll probably easily find somebody to meet those needs if you're willing to do the same. It's just that there's another problem, and I'm going back into the problem of dating, is that you know yourself, you're smarter, hopefully you're more successful because you've had experiences, maybe you've accumulated money and property and degrees and children and grandchildren, so you've got a lot of moving parts, and then you've got another person with a lot of moving parts. One of the challenges that I've seen is when people, whether it be male or female, put family, their their family before the partner. And it's real easy to do. I mean, I get it. Some of us have children. If our children call, then we may want to prioritize that. However, there's a big problem with that. Unless your child is in an emergency situation, okay, sending the message to your new potential partner that you're not important enough to be number one is a very, very bad message. And actually, the Bible talks about this. And I'm not coming from a religious point of view, I'm coming from a wisdom point of view that even children or grandchildren need to see that there's a strong bond between you and the person that you select. And so if you're easily distracted by your work or your children or your, I don't know, if your old spouse calls you and says, "Oh, you've got to come help me, the plumbing is stuck, please." How would you feel if you're dating a somebody and they say, "Look, I really still love my ex-wife. They're not for me, but I promised her that I'd be there for her anytime." And then she calls and disrupts your day by saying, "Oh, can you come and fix the plumbing, or can you come and tarp the roof? There's rain." How would you feel if there was that sort of enmeshment with an old family?
You know, you bring up the word baggage. And
Yeah.
when you're dating, at any age past 25, you're going to have baggage. And it depends on how their baggage, in the airplane, you have to have a certain size to fit in the overhead compartment, right?
I know where you're
You
going
have,
with this.
right? You have to say to yourself, does this fit in my overhead compartment? Some people come with, baggage all, okay, does it fit in your overhead compartment? Some people will take larger amounts of baggage than others. And when you first meet someone, their priorities are going to be with who they were with before they met you. But as the relationship grows, I think it's a horrible feeling for me not to be number one. But some
Absolutely.
people, depending on their motivation,
Mhm.
just want a partner. They don't want to be alone. Or, as you said a moment ago, they want someone to call 911 if needed.
Or
And
right,
that suffices.
or I'll go back into my what the Freud concept, picking
Mhm.
somebody that matches old core beliefs, which is why it's so important to be in therapy and
Mhm.
bust old core beliefs. Because if you had a mother or father or a significant parental figure that did not prioritize you, you're more susceptible to picking up somebody that will not put you as number one. So you will, in that
Absolutely.
sense, recreate your core beliefs, whether they be "I'm not important, I'm not number one, I'm not lovable, I'm not beautiful." There are lists and lists of core beliefs that I work with in in doing the mind map work. Okay, and I'm sure you have core beliefs come up with your patients all the time. So if we pick somebody that replicates our familiar and familial core beliefs, we may feel a camaraderie with them. However, we will also feel the old wounds and the old pains, and we won't
And
grow.
I
We
think
will not grow.
you said it earlier, the synergy. The
Right.
synergy is perfect for your dysfunctional self
There we
because it's
go.
familiar. It's
Dysfunctional
like,
synergy. Yeah.
yeah, it's this energy. Wow, this is how mom and dad treated me. And that's all going on unconsciously. And when someone treats you differently, if you haven't healed from those wounds,
Mhm.
then you're going to pick people that are going to make you feel that way. And it's going to be a love-hate relationship, just like you had in childhood.
That's right. And it is amazing because even if you drop, let's say, or divorce, or they divorce you, if you don't heal that piece of you, well, you're just going to get a new representation of you're not good enough, you're not important, you're not special, you're not worth it. A new version.
Yeah.
And and it's very painful, especially when you're older and you're coming to a part in your life where you need nourishment. One of my personal requirements is that I want somebody that treats me as at least as well as I treat myself. At least if they're
And
gonna,
that's because you're showing self-respect for yourself. You're
yeah,
showing that you've done the work you need to do because nobody has a childhood that was A plus plus. Everybody has crap that happened to them. But the idea that you could say now as an older person, I want someone who's going to treat me at least as well as I treat myself. That's a huge statement. And that's a huge statement of growth on your part. And you're putting it out into the universe. And because you're articulate and you do ask questions, if someone is not measuring up to that, you're not going to sit there and say, what about, you're going to say, hey, I would like blank, blank, blank. Are you able to do that? And the person is going to answer you honestly, and then you make a decision. Thank you for your honesty. We're not a match.
and
That's
there's
it.
nothing wrong with that. Better
Nothing is wrong
sooner,
with that.
better sooner than later, right?
100%.
I love your analogy of the baggage. You know, some people's baggage is too much. Um,
Yes.
I know people who marry people who have had 8 children, okay, which means that they're financially responsible until those children grow up and maybe even still for a lot of children. And then they want to bring new children into the situation. So you've got to also be honest with yourself. And speaking of what I said earlier about I don't want anybody who treats me less than I treat myself, I don't want to treat somebody with a lesser intentions and lesser goodwill than they deserve. And I want to listen for what their needs are, because if I don't, then I'm being foolish, aren't I? I'm being selfish. I want this and I want it. Well, what about my participation in their life? Don't I want to be the light in their life? Of course I do.
But there again, you're speaking to the work that you've done, that you have the enlightenment, that you have the wherewithal to say it's not just about me, but what do they want? And am I going to be the right person for them? Some people don't talk because they're afraid that if they talk, they're going to push the person away. And then what's going to happen eventually, if you're afraid that you're not who you really are, but you're saying, oh my God, I love baseball games. Let's go to the Dodger game. Oh, I'll have a beer. And meantime, you've never been to a Dodger game. You don't like it, but you're doing it because you want to impress or pretend to be someone else. The gig is going to be up and it's going to hurt even more for both of you. So
Or
be honest at the outset.
you could say, look, I don't want baseball. I don't love baseball, but you know, for you, I don't mind going once a month. And I'll
Exactly.
do it for you. You know, like I'll do it for you because you want the company, you want
Yes.
shared experience. So I can do that. And maybe I'll enjoy the fact that I'm giving my partner the support to enjoy his hobby or his interest.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a conversation with somebody that loved golf. Well, what do you do? I play golf. When do you play golf? I play golf on the weekends. What, all day? Yeah, pretty much all day. And then in the evening, I take a break. What about during the week? Yeah, I play at least 5 days a week of golf. Well, when would you have time for a relationship? Well, after golf. So, you know, as he was saying that, I did inventory on my panel 3, and I noticed, I'll never be important enough to be number 1. Never. So once I saw that we weren't going to be a match. And I saw that the conversation was never about, well, what do you like to do? Maybe I'll come with you to some art studios, or maybe I'll come with you to learn more about botanical gardens. It's a two-way street. And if you're not hearing anything about taking interest in you, I would pass.
And that's the healthy thing to do. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners out there are not healthy in that they are willing not to be number one, just to have company. But
And by the
again,
way, I don't want to interrupt you, but we have a phone call.
okay.
Let's take the phone call. And hello, thank you so much for calling in. And you're welcome to ask Dr. Barbara a question or me or both of us. Hello.
Hi, this is Manya. I'm so excited to hear everything that you're sharing. I feel like I don't hear these things in this depth and even this configuration anywhere. So I really appreciate it. I'm in my 60s. I'm widowed 4 years ago, and I'm finding dating very challenging, although I haven't done a lot of it in my lifetime. Obviously, I didn't date. I was in an arranged marriage, and now I've dated a few times, maybe 3 times. And I'm quite shocked at how difficult it is. Yes.
What are you finding to be difficult? What challenges is it bringing up for you?
I think the challenges is I'm finding that men my age in their 60s, and I am on one dating app, but I'm also meeting people in my religious community. They're very grossly immature.
Okay.
And I even find it hard to say that because it sounds like an unkind thing to say, but their behavior is it's very childish and it's very controlling, and it's almost immediately.
May I ask what culture you come from?
Yes, I am Jewish and Greek, so that's a lovely hodgepodge, isn't it?
Jewish and Greek, okay. And
my father's side is Jewish and my mother Greek.
Very interesting. Okay, now are you dating? Well, I guess they are two distinct cultures, although there are some aspects of both that overlap. Are you
Yes.
trying to stay culturally within your group of people?
Religiously, but not culturally. I don't feel the necessity to that I need to. I have a person that is, they must be like. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult because I am very comfortably a combination of Judaism, and I'm not Greek Orthodox, but I'm very comfortable with my Greek community.
It does make a difference when you have religious synergy. It really does, because you're creating.
It's huge. It's huge.
And
you're inspired. What would I even talk about? Yeah.
Right. It's really difficult, and the more like-minded people are, I think the easier it is to create that family feeling. But one of the reasons I have Dr. Barbara on today is because we're thinking about doing a series, like an actual little podcast together on dating.
Oh, I would love that.
Years. And although I've had my Dr. Judy WTF show for 10 years now, and will continue, I'd love maybe for Dr. Barbara and I to start something, a small podcast where people can call in and get dating advice. And some topics might be how to make sure you're dating for synergy, value dating, a big topic. I think I have talked about this, is intentional dating. Do you really want to go out with somebody just to have fun? I mean, I love fun, but what's not fun is having fun and not even knowing if the person's right for you. To me, it's wasted.
Yeah, it's dangerous. That's just dangerous.
Right? Why do I
and non-deceptive?
Pardon me?
I'm finding that many men, I'm just finding this, and maybe the women are too, but I'm not talking to women on the dating apps, but the men are saying, oh yeah, I want somebody who's, wholesome and down to earth and spiritual. And that's not at all what they're looking for. And when I
So
do
let me
meet them, I say to them very quickly, and I say, I don't think you're interested in. And he says, yeah, you're right. He says, I just really wanted to meet you. And I'm thinking, oh, I find that insulting.
And you're right. And you know, part of why did I create a mind map from a frustration point of view? I felt like the world is in such a bad shape. People are so disconnected and narcissistic and whatever. I feel like I've got to cure people in order to have friendships.
Yes,
Friendships.
yes.
So one of the
I
things,
love the mind map. I love the mind map. And you did a show on intentional dating, maybe, is it a month ago now? It was great. It was great.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to do more of that. And I enjoy doing shows with Barbara, Dr. Barbara. And maybe we will have some seminars together on how to date intentionally and what to look out for and how not to end up with another narcissist and segue into healing. And I'm hoping that men will be motivated enough uh, to heal themselves so that they could really get their soul satisfaction, not just their physicality satisfied, which is typical male, right? You know, the old saying, give them a beer and a sandwich, they're happy.
It really is. I have a question for you before you hang up. Do you have a specific question that you'd like answered that we could help you with?
Yes, I really feel that my background, I was brought up to be a wife from a very young age, just a few years old. The training started, and I loved it. I loved being a wife. I think it was wonderful, but it's not. I have no training as far as my responsibility as learning how to date effectively. And so I'm scrambling to find material. There's not much out there, particularly for women in their 60s. And so what would you suggest or recommend? Because I don't feel I'm bringing enough to the table. I have no dating history. I'm really lousy at it. I'm embarrassed.
What makes you lousy at it?
Because I'm constantly shocked. I'm constantly surprised and shocked, and I was unaware of kind of the cultural normalization of a number of relationship patterns for people in my age group now. And it's shocking to me, and I don't feel like I have the skills to even comprehend where to go next to change things, because I won't be satisfied with a 911 caller. I really want, my husband was beautiful. I mean, he was smart and kind, and he did his work, and he was well put together. And it's really challenging to even be interested in anything that I'm seeing with men. Well, you know, he was so mature.
Yes. And I think my first inclination, having never met you, is you were very lucky that your husband was who he was, and you just haven't met the right one yet, because it's not that difficult it's like going to a restaurant and trying a new food. You could try a new food and say, oh, that's horrible. I don't like it. Maybe you have to, get a taste for it over and over. Or you could taste something and say, oh my God, this is incredible. It's the same thing in dating. You're surprised and shocked because the people that you're meeting are not who they presented themselves to be and who you wanted them to be. But I think the more you feel secure within yourself and you could ask questions and be assertive so that you could find out more information, will help you tremendously. Don't be shy. Don't put yourself down and say, I'm not very good at this. No one's good at dating. You can't really be good at it. It's not a skill that you could learn as much as you being authentic to yourself. If something doesn't feel right, question it and just say, I'm not sure, but I'm feeling blank. Do you feel that way? That's it. Just be authentic, be more self-assertive so that you get the answers that you want instead of beating yourself up that you're not good at it.
And you know,
Thank you so much.
you're very welcome. And I want to challenge Dr. Barbara and myself in doing a little bit more research, if you will, on fishing in the right pond. Okay, because we could say that we're bad daters or we're not finding anybody, but if you're fishing in the wrong pond and all the fish out there are polluted and selfish and usury and all of that, then we're wasting our time. So I think it's really, really important to know who we are and then only date in the pool of people who are like-minded, maybe similar in religion or values or both. So that's the challenge, and we will talk more about this podcast. And
I'm so glad. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
Very welcome.
I appreciate it.
And your work has helped me so much, Dr. Judy, and I so have enjoyed your conversation, both of you today. Thank you so much. Because it is frightening. Actually, it's kind of frightening dating right now. Yeah.
It is very frightening. I just have a question. Are you Canadian by any chance?
Yes, I am.
See, I'm pretty good at this because I'm from Montreal, Canada.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Okay. Right now I'm living in Saskatchewan. My father was from Manhattan and my mother from a wee town in Canada.
Gotcha.
In Manitoba.
I picked it up. I picked up on the Canadian.
You did. You did.
So pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for your questions and your comments, and we'll be on it. We want people to have a better day.
And thank you both so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good luck.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So Dr. Barbara, here's our challenge, is to put some great information out there, but also at the same time, let's not lead people down the garden path of garbage. Okay, if you're going to go into the cesspool of dating, what can you expect? So I think people have to, and maybe you and I could spend some more time on quality dating, psychoeducating both men and women to pick up their mental health, their dating skills, perhaps consulting even rabbis or priests or ministers on what is healthy ways of dating, the rules and roles. So I'm open to all of that. I appreciate you coming on the show. We will speak further. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you for your call-in.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me here. It's wonderful to really be of service in something that is so difficult, as the caller said. It just is a very difficult situation to be in. And I think, as she said, she just doesn't want someone to call 911. That's great. That's the first step. Really identify and write down what your needs are and what you're offering and what you're looking for is really the first step.
Absolutely. Well,
so thank you again,
Barbara, and we will do more around this topic.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.